Hello, and welcome to Night Clerk Radio. This is episode 141. New music for December 2025. Last of this year that has felt like 10 years. It's been a lot, but we survived it. And if you're listening to this, you survived it too. So congratulations. You did it. And so you get to hear about some new albums we found and some shout outs. It's great. And we get to enjoy this very warm Christmas for some of us. Like it's supposed to be around 70 degrees Fahrenheit on Christmas Eve where I live in Missouri.
Very normal.
Very normal.
Very normal. Very normal Christmas weather. Yeah. So we're recording this on December 19th. And, don't usually date our episodes that precisely. But yeah, I'm in Western Maryland, where it should be cold and snowing, which it was 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. And today it's 65 and rainy, and the wind sounds like it's going to tear down my whole neighborhood with that kind of temperature change. Yeah. So it's fun.
Yay. Cool and normal. So,
yep.
Before we get into our albums, of course, we do have some shout outs. So I'll get us started with a compilation album that was too long to use as my album pick for this episode because it is 2.5 hours long, but it is No Sleep, put out by Slow Internet. And it is a compilation album, various artists. It is 31 tracks of dark ambient / signal wave. The liner notes say, "There's something on TV, something I've never seen before. It's been here for a while now, and I think I'm beginning to understand what it wants. Just remember, don't sleep." So yeah, it is a charity one. All proceeds from this compilation will be donated to Partners in Health. And it's just a lot of artists I hadn't heard of before. Some I vaguely recognize, but like I listened through it. There's just a lot of weird, creepy, dark ambient with a kind of a signal wave influence. You know, a lot of like weird samples and looping and static and just it's creepy and I like it. It's neat.
Hell yeah. Compilations, man. So that's basically my shout outs. All of them. They're really some shout outs or one big shout out. So I'll split them up for the purposes of the back and forth, Ross. Mm-hmm. I'm just, 'tis the season. I'm a bit of a Grinch, but we have talked on the show before. I do love a Christmas Vaporwave compilation. I think Vaporwave is the perfect Christmas music. Christmas music has traditionally been like melancholic and a bit weird and unsettling. It's only recently that we've had this turn towards like over the top, joyful family Hallmark Christmas stuff that's kind of post-war, which I'll take as recently in the history of music. And I think that combines great with Vaporwave. So I have 3 Vaporwave Christmassy things. I'm going to start off with one, which is a live show. And I'm very sorry that because of our recording schedule, this episode is going to come out after the show has happened. But this is a shout out to go back and see if these artists have released sets. If the VOD is still up on Twitch and the Twitch copyright bots haven't muted half of it, like the garbage that they are. But this is Christmas on the Isles, organized by Rogecore, who does all these great shows. He's actually just lives pretty close to me. So doing a whole big show on December 20th. It's going to be pretty much all day. Tons of huge names, tons of visuals by like Wave Squad and Bort Media and JPEG Stripes and Forever Online and Starkey Music and Frank Jeffsey and Van Gogh and Luxury Noise, Luxury Elite, Notorious Secret. Tons. These are just off the top of my head. So I think it'll be a huge show, and I'm sure there'll be tons of stuff to go if you missed it to go check out after the fact. Remember, you don't have to have FOMO over live streams. It's cool to talk to the chat, but all that art generally gets released in some sense. So go check it out and support those artists.
Nice. Yeah, that does sound fun. I'll have to check out or see if I can watch it. Since it's happening tomorrow, I could actually watch it. So yeah.
It's tomorrow as of recording, but yeah, you can. It's 2 p.m. Eastern. Mm-hmm.
My next 2 shoutouts do have a common theme in that they were both announced over a decade ago and have only been recently released.
Okay, so, I'll take it. Yeah. We love to theme. We love to connect.
So my second one is Routine, which is a sci-fi horror video game that was announced 13 years ago and came out last month. And it is, you're sent to this station on the moon. And when you get there, nobody's there, but there's killer robots and you're trying to figure out what happened. The gameplay itself is very sort of like Amnesia: The Dark Descent, where you're hiding and solving puzzles. It does have some interesting mechanics, like you have this big sci-fi gun-looking device, but it's a tool, and you can use it to get various modules. Like there's a blacklight module to see blood stains and solve puzzles that way. So, but it has this incredible look to it. It looks absolutely beautiful. It's a very retro, blue collar, lived in future, like Alien,
Blade Runner, etc.
Yeah.
Big green CRTs.
Yes, banks of them.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it does some like processing to like add a little like line filter on it, like you're playing it through a CRT. They've added some mods to make it look like film or something like that, and I haven't messed with all of them yet. So it's worth playing just for the aesthetic. It's not a very long game from what I understand. I'm only probably like halfway through. I've been busy doing kitchen work, so I haven't had much time to play it. But yeah, it's or just watch a playthrough of it. It's absolutely beautiful and lush, and I just wish there weren't these pesky killer robots trying to murder me so I could just bathe in the environment, just soak it in. But
like a walking sim version of it.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll take it. It's fine. The fact that it actually came out is amazing. So good for them.
So thankfully my Polymarket parlay had this coming out before Star Citizen. So I'm all set.
Oh man, making the big plays.
Betting the big bucks. Okay, my second shout out, continuing our theme of Christmas, Vaporwave or adjacent compilations. Of course, the Signal Wave community has released their 2025 Christmas special on Hitachi Home Video. Again, a big, beautiful collection of Christmas Signal Wave. You got ads, you got songs, you got broadcasts. The Signal Wave community is really cool because it's so international, of course. We've talked about not just like European Signal Wave, but Japanese and South American, Global South. There's a lot of like stuff from like Argentina and stuff on there. So completely different set of like songs and commercials and choir and stuff. So really great. Also, I think friend of the show, Opsin, had a release on it.
Hell yeah.
If I remember correctly. Yeah. I don't have much else to say other than like, if you like Signal Wave and you want some cozy / unsettling Christmas Signal Wave, certainly go check this out.
Nice. So my third and final shout out is something. It was announced. It was Kickstarted in 2010 and was finally released to the public December 3rd of this year, like just a week ago. It is the RoboCop statue, which is now in the Eastern Market in Detroit, which is a farmer's market kind of area. You can go see it. It is very tall. It is larger than life. I think it's like 10 feet tall or something like that. But there's a Kickstarter 2010. Like Detroit should have a RoboCop statue. And like, okay, we'll do a Kickstarter because this is like Kickstarter itself was only launched in 2009. So this is like one of the first Kickstarters that got a lot of publicity. Like, oh, you could use this crowdfunding thing for all kinds of novel and fun things. It took them years to make it and to, get permission from MGM Studios. And then they had it made locally by Detroit companies to make sure, it was a locally sourced thing. And then once they built the thing, they had to find a place in Detroit that would accept it. And that took a while. And finally, someone who owned a bit of land in the Eastern Market was like, oh yeah, you could put RoboCop here. And so, so I went up to Detroit for a wedding last week for Max from our friend of the podcast, Good Brews, Bad Views podcast. Former guest. And he had a lovely wedding. It was great. I had a great time. We got there the day before and I was like, we have to see the RoboCop statue. And so we took an Uber there and we told the Uber guy why we were going. They said, oh my God, there's a RoboCop statue. So he stopped and pulled over and got photos with it too. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. This is awesome. It was great. So I got some photos up. I think I put them up on the United Clerk Discord. Yeah, it's just, there's a little QR code at the base of the statue that pulls up a website that explains what the fuck this is. And but like RoboCop statue, it finally came out. It finally has been released. You get your photo taken with a giant RoboCop. It's great.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it did look cool. There's definitely some pictures floating around. Last in our Signal Wave Christmas collection, we have Christmas 2025, or Christmas Vaporwave 2025 being the full name, from Bort Media and Sofa King Sadboy. Just another great visual album, which also I should have an addendum to my previous shout out, which was that it was organized by Noah Coed. So on her YouTube channel in the show notes, there'll be a link to, there's also an hour and a half like visual album movie associated with the Signal Wave Christmas.
Yeah.
Just so if you like a visual, just don't want to miss that out. But back to this one, is Bort Media we've talked about before. I've shouted them out. They do great visual mixes on YouTube. This one is of course Christmas focused. It's just all these. I love the visuals of all these like cross-faded ads against each other, like in like weird, uncanny slow motion with this sort of glowing, like kind of fairy light snow, persistent, like half fade under it. Very dreamy, very cozy, very festive, and a lot of great vaporwave from a ton of people, ton of names on there.
Hell yeah. We love to see it. Love to listen to it.
That's true. But this you can also see.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
This should replace the fireplace Blu-ray for people.
Ooh, that good, huh? Damn.
I think the visual mix in general, spice it up.
Cool. Well, I'll have to take a look. Put it on while I cook tonight.
There you go.
Yeah. And now onward with the albums. And that is a sample from track 1 of Secrets in Motion for the Ghost Rider by Halogen. Sorry, this track is the titular track. It is the Ghost Rider. Yeah, this is a ambient techno / minimalist IDM vapor album that I found through a long search. I believe I was looking through the artist in the No Sleep compilation and somehow clicked through to one of the artists' record labels, which is Vivarium Recordings. And I looked through there, and Vivarium, this is the most recent, one of the more recent albums that they posted. And so I listened to this and was like, okay, this has got an interesting structure to it. And it obviously in one of my kryptonites is specifically the liner notes mentioned inspired by horror game soundtracks. I'm like, okay, well, yep, I gotta listen to this. And so I listened to the album and it's like, all right, this is good. This is interesting and a little different than what we've usually talked about. So yeah, this is like one thing I want to talk about is like the techno genre itself. And techno is one of the techno genre owes a lot to Detroit, to bring back our RoboCop connection. The Detroit,
so many connections,
so many connections. Yeah, it is a genre, an EDM genre that got started back as soon as drum machines and synths were available. It is entirely synthetic, entirely synthesized. And it is sort of defined by a like heavy emphasis on rhythm, almost no lyrics, no singing, no melody. It's almost in a lot of ways kind of like droning, or because of this emphasis on setting up a beat and looping it and just sort of building up and sort of gradually changing it as the song progresses. And it's one of those genres of EDM I kind of get into every once in a while and kind of fade out, because I remember multiple times like really getting into a techno album and then like, oh man, you got to check that out. But it's like there's no like huge big moments that like when you're showcasing the album to someone else, you're like, oh man, wasn't that bit really cool? There's no like massive hooks or anything like that, like a Daft Punk album would have, for example. But when I'm showing this to someone else, it's like, oh man, this is it's just the same thing over and over again. Oh god. But like when I'm on my own and listening to it, it's like, oh yeah, I really get into it. So I kind of had those memories listening to this album. But like, it's Secrets in Motion for the Ghost Rider has a lot of interesting dichotomy between anxiety and comfort as we go through. Like this first track is very anxious, and actually it does have kind of like some sub vocal muttering throughout it, which really it adds to the anxiety angle to it. But yeah, I quite enjoyed this album. It was a pleasant discovery. So, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I really liked it. So I didn't look into it at all. You just kind of sent it on Discord and I listened to it, and I really liked it. So I was pretty much hooked from that first track. It wasn't until I read the liner notes that talks about horror game OSTs. I was like, oh, okay, sure. Because to me, I actually thought it felt a lot like like aughts hauntology music that we've talked about. Like something that would be on like Ghostbox. And we did a whole episode on Ghostbox records.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that sort of like creepy, unsettling, driving synth electronic experimental music. Maybe it doesn't have like the same nostalgic touch points as that. It's focused on something else, but it felt very stylistically like that. So I really like it. Yeah, like you said, the opening track is super driving, but also kind of anxious because it has that pretty aggressive, like not quite from the floor, I guess it is, but just that like driving quarter note pulse, but like all this like syncopated, like slightly detuned synths going on over it.
Yeah, there's this dissonant element to like a lot of the tracks on this album. So yeah. And then throughout, just like a lot of great like arpeggiator work and this push and pull between more ambient and more driving. So I really, really liked it. Yeah. I mean, it does change over time too. Like track 2 gets a little more spacier, a little ambient, but as there's some actually pretty upbeat in like tracks. Like track 5 I felt was pretty. Crack the Flags was pretty, optimistic. And then of course, track 9, As the Sun Rises, extremely warm, very bright, and it's all hopeful, like interesting counterpoint to a lot of the earlier tracks. But I mean, going back, we have like track 6 is Trapped in Beige, is almost felt like a John Carpenter like B-sides from one of his more recent albums. It felt very synthwave.
Yeah, that track 4 through 6 branch is what I was thinking of when I was thinking of like more, you also said upbeat. Like this track 1 is like anxious, but track 2 and 3 to me were a little more ambient, like especially track 2, which, well, track 3 is long, so it's got a lot of movements through it because it's like a 9-minute track. But track 2 definitely has like less motion, I would say.
Yeah.
It's much more of like a drifting in space type track.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't sure if that was going to be like the rest of the album, but then the middle hits and you get all this great like driving synthwave.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, after that, like track 7, Mint Floors and Lavender Doors was I highly enjoyed because it starts with this great evil laugh intro and like very reverb heavy strings. And why don't we listen to a bit of it? Yeah, it has that low, like bass heavy, like fuzzy sound to it too, as well. Like, yeah, it's great. Track 8, I kind of got some Vangelis vibes from it in the opening, but
a little bit.
Yeah,
he definitely that. It's hard to escape the shadow of that, like CS80 swell. Yeah. But
yeah, there's a lot of variety in this, and yeah, it is definitely an album I've listened to multiple times. I would just put it on and just like get absorbed into it and be like, oh shit, that was an hour.
Yeah.
Like there are bits that really draw itself into, but like it has a really great progression. Like the final track, The End of the Night, has a really interesting, like crystalline kind of opening, but then it gets more anxious and really builds into this anxiety. Like you feel like that, like something horrible is about to happen. Like that's a great way to end an album like this. Yeah. Cause again, it is a darker themed album. So even though we had some hope earlier on, it's like, maybe the monster isn't dead yet. Kind of vibes at the end. Just a great little album.
Yeah. Some of those later tracks are great. I also really liked track 10, which I think was the other track that stood out to me. I think, tastes are, trying to be better about listening to a lot of stuff, but ultimately tastes are still drawn towards like the drone. So I like the opening of that track, but it does get into like a pretty good drop and then into like a pretty interesting layered beat.
Yeah.
So overall, like super enjoyable listen. I guess, did you go back? Because this is Secrets in Motion 4.
Yeah.
Is that a fake 4 or are there actually 3 other?
They're
okay.
in the liner
I didn't know
notes.
if it was like a joke, like, oh, it's the 4th game in a series or something.
No, if you look in the liner notes on the Bandcamp page, they link to all 3 of the albums.
They sure do.
And I've listened to the first 2, and they're not like thematically connected. They're not all like horror game OSTs, but they're all like ambient genres. Or like techno, kind of like IDM sort of music.
Okay.
And yeah, it's all very good. And it's all like, the first album contains no samples entirely. So it's entirely original. I don't know if that's with the other ones as well. But yeah, it was there. Yeah, I need to listen to the third album and to complete it. But like, it's one of these, there's so many subgenres of, electronic music and EDM music that you can't like try everything, but like techno's been one of these kind of like blind spot for me, and I know there's a rich history to it and there's a lot of really good stuff there, but this was a really good like a gateway drug for me, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm really curious because looking back, I mean the first one goes back to 2021, so that's interesting.
Yeah, so
that's cool. I'm still a little curious about the like horror game OST influence, like what games are their touch points for this? Because
I think this is kind of what reminds me is like early 2000s, like survival horror games, like not necessarily like Parasite Eve or specifically games, but like games where you're fighting monsters and there's a lot of action and energy to it. Like that's the kind of thing, like not you're tortured and you're in hell like Silent Hill, but like there's a clone dinosaur is going to eat your face. You need to get the fuck out of there kind of vibes. So
yeah. It's one of those things that makes me think about like a possible future episode, because whenever we've done horror OST, like horror video game OSTs, it's always been in the context of like that very specific like survival horror vibe of Silent Hill or Resident Evil or, Night of Terror was like a fake Silent Hill soundtrack, basically.
Oh, yeah, that's true. There's a YouTube channel. There's a couple of them, but like one called Dungeon Chill that goes into these obscure person who runs the channel speaks Japanese, so he'll play through Japanese only like PS2 titles that are like horror games that never got a US release, and like you listen to some of the music, and he goes into these games in great detail and talks about the music as well, and like there's a lot of really interesting like music that was made for these kind of games that never saw a wider release, but like a lot of it doesn't sound like horror music. You would listen to it and think it was a club track, but like you're shooting monsters in a lab or some sort of abandoned building or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, that hits, that works.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to think of like soundtracks for horror games I really liked, but I can't like put the soundtrack in my head the same way as some of the other games I mentioned. Like, we talked about Routine. What about like Alien Isolation soundtrack? I'm trying to remember what that was like.
I want to say more like orchestral.
Yeah, I feel like it was more orchestral, like closer to what you get out of the movies, or like the Outlast series. I'm trying to think of what they're. Or like Evil Within, or I just would have to go listen.
Yeah, atypical horror game music would be an interesting.
Eternal Darkness. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah,
stuff like that.
Well, a lot of these are going to be like obscure games that are like not well remembered, but like have really unusual, interesting soundtrack. It's kind of the same flip coin to like the fishing games have banger soundtracks thing that we started seeing popping up. You know, like, oh yeah, horror games, they actually have really good club techno tracks in it. Like, all right.
Yeah. It doesn't really, me not knowing the source has no effect on my enjoyment of the album. I don't think. I really, really liked it. Still, I'm just curious.
Sure.
For future discussions.
Fair enough. Well, we got another episode idea banked in the repository.
There you go.
Yep.
Thank you, Halogen Star. And that was a bit from our second album, track 3, Life World, off the latest Oneohtrix Point Never album, Tranquilizer. Now, of course, OPN, Daniel Lopatin, we've talked about before. How can you not, on 100 and some episodes of a Vaporwave podcast, not talk about Echo Jams? but he's done so much other stuff. And it's interesting. We feel like we've kind of done a disservice to his career by not talking about some of the other albums. We've really only ever talked about Echo Jams, and that was 5 years ago. Of course, Chuck Person's Echo Jams Volume 1. Because Daniel is such, or OPN, I'll just call him for short, because at some point I'm going to say Lopatin wrong, has done such an interesting career of one of my favorite things, which is like reviving forgotten cultural detritus and turning it into something really interesting musically, like the purest point of plunderphonics, that sort of that sample-based approach to music. So, his 2020 album Never was like a big audio archive you found online. And I think if I remember correctly, he's done so many, I hope I don't get it wrong, but that's like all like radio station sign-offs and like changings and stuff. And he did this also on the album, Replica, which was also another incredible album. That's 2011. So it was like shortly after Echo Jams. That was just this big mashup of just another huge audio archive that he found. And that was all compilation. It was like a big bootleg set of like DVDs that were just TV commercials, Saturday morning cartoons, late night cable, et cetera, et cetera. And that's sort of like, I always use the term culture detritus, and that got assembled into like Replica. And we're back doing it again with Tranquilizer. This time, I thought it was interesting because we talked about this also on the last episode, is that the primary inspiration here was 90s like commercial samples from the days when you had to like buy sets of CDs with all your samples. And I feel like one of the albums on our last episode also was kind of rooted in the idea of the 90s sample. You talked about like that bird call and stuff. Oh, yeah. Amongst others. So that's really what's going on here. And the result is beautiful. It's an incredible album. Just this like perfect mix of, it's like this perfect anxiety comfort of like all these familiar samples, these familiar tools put together in a way that just like perfectly blends drifting between energetic and ambient back and forth. Even that track, I played like track 3, Life World. I played one of the later like calmer bits, but even that track starts off with like a very different feel, much more like layers and layers of beats before you get into that more like swelling synth drone. So this is just an album. It's a ton of tracks. I'm probably not going to talk about every track individually, but it is an album just full of like big, beautiful, lush synth pads. And then all these other like layers of warm, gentle samples mixed in. There's that modem click. I don't know if there's an official term for it. Snuck in there on track 10. Like,
just like as soon as I heard that, my brain just like clicked. Like, oh god, this just like my sleeper agent activation sound. Like,
yeah. I think this is like the third in a set of, to me, of stuff I've gotten into this year, of like just big, lush experimental electronic that is like genre defining. It's back and forth all over the place in feel, but not in a way that is random. It has a little bit of everything, big, huge production, lots of layers, lots of elements. Sometimes you have like little phasers come in and out, or you'll have like little synth melodies hanging out under like weird demon voices. You have like transitions from ethereal R&B into like hard techno into waterfall sounds on the last track and jazz. Yeah, this is like a trifecta for me of albums this year of Mesh, Navigator, and then this. Again, 3 very different albums pulling from very different sources, very stylistically different. But I love all of them because I'm getting into like listening to all this crazy layered production that goes on. And I sort of just shotgun my way through most of the feels of the album. These become like such joys to listen to, so much just to pick apart every time.
Yeah. Yeah, and my
What did you think, Ross?
definitely, if I had to pick a single word, I would also pick lush. My notes start incredibly lush and dense. I mean, for me, it's ear candy of these sighs and hisses and triumphant bursts of music. There is a visualizer for this on YouTube, which I watched several times while listening to this album, and it really underscores, I think, the kind of atomized nature of this album. Of like, the visualizer is this pixel art, this abstract pixel art that changes in response to the music, but the pixel art reminded me of like the old game Lemmings, when things explode and like you could see there's a more recent game called Noita where you're playing Noita, where you're playing a wizard and it's a roguelike, but like it has this physics pixel simulation engine where like when you explode something, you could see all the different colors of rock and other elements get exploded and mixed up. And like, if you see gameplay of either of those games and then you see the visuals, you can see it's sort of like on that same kind of spectrum. And it's very tranquil and radiant in places, but then it gets very like, when you mentioned the voices, I know you're talking about track 11, because my note for that is like cool music with ASMR demon voices muttering at you. Yeah. And there's actually, like, when you mentioned the modem noise, that's like around, I think, track 10, there's this burst of music on that around 25 into the visualizer that turns this burst of light. It just instantly transforms the pixels. And yeah, it's every bit of it just was great. It has this, it's seemingly chaotic noise, but like there is some kind of structure to it, but it felt very, despite it being very, produced and layered and chopped up and edited, still felt organic in a way that like every tracks would kind of flow into each other and flow out. And it's an amazing album, and I love the sheer variety of it, and but like the overall, again, like sighs and hisses, but like complimentary, like in a good way. A lot of static, a lot of crackle, a lot of like that lo-fi sound, but very warm. But it works beautifully in this.
And I didn't know what to expect with this album, because I feel like a lot of the aesthetics, or kind of the idea of each of OPN's albums, there's a lot of overlap, but they go back and forth over the place. Like Garden of Delete, I remember being like a little harsher versus like, and like Age of being more accessible. We always talk about doing like an artist retrospective, and they would actually be like a good option, because not just because they're a huge name, because they did like movie soundtracks and stuff too. He did the Uncut Gems soundtrack. Yeah.
The chaotic nature of that movie matches his music very well.
It's true. Yeah. So I want to play, I'm trying to think what I'm going to play for this. I'm going to play another more ambient track, I think, for our second sample. Is that true? Do I want to play? What do I want to do, Ross?
Play that track. Play that funky music.
Well, this is not funky music. Okay, this is a bit from track 9, Bell Scanner. I don't know why this track stood out to me. It's just a little bit of ambient chimes leading into some like piano. But I think, you mentioned we already broke the Vangelis seal this episode. Those little chimes that come in and out are like, I always like hearing those, solely, I think, because like that little ambience is like all over the Blade Runner soundtrack. Everyone thinks of like the big synth melodies, big famous synth melodies, but there's all kinds of like little chimes in the background during like camera pans or when we're coming into new locations. So whenever I hear them in music, that's actually more my Blade Runner good brain chemicals, even more than like the CS80 synth.
Yeah, it reminded me of like educational shows from the 80s, like,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of those shows got their cues from Vangelis as well. So, but like, we're going to be learning about like volcanoes in this next section, But no, I love that. It's very lovely. I love the nice chimes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to, I'm I'm actually along with your reference. If I think of just the chimes again, but like a video bleeding title card of like isosceles triangles, or something before. God, that whole instructional video is space ambient too.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting too, Ross. I don't know if it's there's much overlap here. Maybe because some of that came from those same sample CD sources.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I totally imagine like the standard deep middle. This is an equilateral triangle.
Yeah, right.
Now, if you take one end and you pull it out, you have you get up with an acute triangle.
Just watching some of those old
triangle.
things, all that stuff's been uploaded to YouTube now, and just rewatch. I've rewatched some of that stuff recently. It's just like, man, they really had high expectations for us for kids back in the 70s and 80s. They really thought we could get this shit. It was like good.
Yeah, we watched like the miracle of trigonometry or something. It's like like the 70s. Yeah, I mean, I love that whole aesthetic. That Powers of 10 is one of my favorite videos. Yeah, sorry, that's way off track from OPN's music, but
or is it? Maybe
maybe it's not. Yeah. Maybe it's not. Who knows anymore? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. The world's confusing, Ross. It gets more so every day.
No shit. No kidding. At least we got some good music to listen to about.
You got some good ass music to ground yourself in.
Yeah. This album, is great. I really like towards the end. It does kind of get into like a little R&B section towards the end, and then it gets pretty jazzy in the last track, I thought. Yeah. Just a delight. Little surprises throughout the album, and you just kind of flow into it. You just, it just, that pixel art, you should check out the visualizer if you haven't already. You don't need to watch the whole thing, but like once you see it, you'll get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's really good.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We had a blast recording it and, of course, listening to all that great music. Our next episode will be a bit later because we're taking a break in January to recharge our Night Clerk batteries. But we will try and do a Patreon bonus episode because I have a topic I really want to talk about for our patrons. What is it? It's a surprise. You'll have to be a patron to find out. So sign up now.
Oh, my God.
And if you join our Patreon, you can get a whole backlog of episodes to listen through to get you through that cold month of January. And we are on Blue Sky. Technically, we have a Facebook page, but we, message me on Discord or on Blue Sky, really. And please rate and review us on whatever podcasting app you use. But stay warm out there, or stay cool if it gets too warm. And have a happy Christmas, holidays, whatever. Be with your friends and family, and listen to some good ass music, and try not to worry too much about everything else. Got to balance anxiety and comfort is what I'm saying.
2026 is our year.
Yeah. It's the vapors year. That's it. 2026 is the vapor year, and we'll conquer.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye. Bye.